Are you new to Illustrator and would like to learn some basic stuff about working with a gradient mesh? If you're an enthusiast, then you're in the right place. Hi there everyone, my name is Andrei Marius. I've been working in Illustrator for over 10 years, and in this Envato Tuts Plus tutorial, I'll put my experience to use as I show you step by step how you can create this simple flower design using, among other things, some gradient meshes. Before we begin, make sure to check out Envato Elements, where you can get unlimited downloads of stock videos, music, graphics, photos, fonts, and many more. All ready to use and with simple commercial licensing. You can subscribe right now with the link in the description. Now let's move to Illustrator to create a new document. Select pixels from this drop-down menu. Set the width and the height to 850 pixels. Make sure that the color mode is set to RGB and the resolution to 72 pixels per inch. And then you can create your new document. Let's go to Window in the menu bar, and first of all make sure that the control panel is active, and then open all the panels that have this check mark. Once you're done, go to View and Show Grid to enable the grid. Go again to View, but this time to Snap to Grid, which will enable the Snap to Grid feature. And for this tutorial, you'll need a grid line every 1 pixel, so let's go to Edit, Preferences, Guides and Grid. Just enter 1 in this grid line every box. Click OK to apply the changes, and let's start by selecting the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Simply click on your artboard to create an 18 by 75 pixels shape. Press Ctrl M plus a few times to zoom in on this new shape. Remove the stroke color. Let's replace the fill with a random gray. Now switch to the anchor point tool and just click this point to turn it into a sharp point. And then use the direct selection tool to select this same point and drag it 9 pixels down and only 1 pixel to the left. Keep in mind that you can have a look inside the info panel to know exactly when you get to the desired point. Now click inside your shape to select it. Hold down the Alt key and let's drag a copy of this shape to the right, somewhat like this. Now select both of these shapes by pressing the Shift key. Press Ctrl M plus and Ctrl minus to zoom in on both of these shapes. Now select this point and drag it about 3 pixels to the left like this. Continue with the anchor point tool and drag these handles 21 pixels up and only 2 pixels to the left, somewhat like this. Now this will be your first petal shape. Let's move to the second one. Continue with the anchor point tool. Start by dragging the handles of this point about 21 pixels up and only 1 pixel to the left, like this. Continue with this point and drag the handles 21 pixels down and 1 pixel to the left. Move up to this point and let's drag the handles 8 pixels to the right and 3 pixels up, like this. And then you'll need to use the direct selection tool to select just this handle and drag it 3 pixels to the left and 1 pixel down, like this. This will be your second petal shape. Let's move to the layers panel to also rename these two shapes petal 1 and petal 2. Make sure that your petal 2 shape is still selected, and let's go to Object and create gradient mesh. Set the number of rows and columns to 3. Make sure that the appearance is set to flat and the highlight to 100%, and then click OK to turn your shape into a gradient mesh. Make sure that the direct selection tool is still active, as you're about to use it to select these mesh points to adjust the colors. Simply click and drag to select these 4 points. Replace the color with 250, 198, and 188. Continue with this point. Let's set the color to 252, 207, and 208. For this point, you need to set the color to 248, 146, and 175. Select this point and let's set the color to 249, 169, and 174. Select this point. Hold down the Shift key to add to your selection this point, and let's set the color to 250, 192, and 183. Now select these 2 points and let's set the color to 217, 89 and 128. Continue with this point and set the color to 232, 97 and 149. And finally select these mesh points and let's set the color to 188, 61 and 92. Now that you got your first mesh, let's move to the first petal. Go again to Object and create Gradient Mesh. Just increase the number of rows to 4. Click OK to turn your shape into a gradient mesh. And let's recolor this mesh just as you did with the first one. Start again by selecting these top mesh points and replace the color with 250, 198 and 188. Continue with these 2 mesh points and change the color to 252, 207 and 208. Now select this point. Remember to hold down the Shift key to add to your selection all of these points. When you're done selecting those points, replace the color with 250, 192 and 183. Now select just this point and change the color to 249, 169 and 174. Select this point and set the color to 248, 146 and 175. Move down to this point, and for this one you need to set the color to 217, 89 and 128. Now select this point and set the color to 188, 61 and 92. Continue with this one and let's set the color to 232, 97 and 149. And finally select all of these mesh points and replace the color with 188, 31 and 32. Now that both of your petal designs are ready, let's see how you can use them to put together your flower design. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar and use it to create a 25 pixel circle. Fill this new shape with 96, 56 and 19. And then go to Effect, Stylize and Outer Glow. Keep these settings as they come. Just replace this color with 249, 227 and 16. Click OK and OK to apply this effect. Let's press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on our entire artboard. Make sure that the alignment is set to artboard and then click these 2 buttons to easily center your circle. And then press again Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on your selection. When you're done, you can disable the grid and also the snap to grid feature. And now that you've got this circle, which will make up the center of your flower, you can use the selection tool to select the petals, rotate them around your circle. Keep in mind that you need to hold down the Alt key before you click and drag to duplicate your petals. You'll need to add several copies and spread them all around this circle until you end up with something that's somewhat similar with this. Continue and add another 4 copies on top of the existing petals. And finally add another 5 copies on top of the existing petals that should look somewhat like this. Once you're done, reselect the ellipse tool and use it to create a 9 pixel circle. Let's fill this new shape with black and save it as a scatter brush. Keep these default settings and click OK to add your brush inside the brushes panel. Keep this circle selected and first of all increase the size to 58 pixels. Then press Shift and X to quickly swap the fill and stroke color settings. Select this stroke and apply your scatter brush from the brushes panel. Then go to Effect, Distort and Transform and Transform. Increase the number of copies to 30. Set the horizontal scale to 88% and the vertical one to 90. Click OK to apply this effect and then expand it by going to Object and Expand Appearance. And now you'll need to fill all of these shapes with a radial gradient. So let's quickly open the gradient panel. make sure that you have the fill active and click this button to apply a radial gradient for all of these shapes. You need to adjust these gradients, so start by double clicking this gradient slider, change the color mode to RGB and replace this color with 222, 130 and 0. Move to this other gradient slider, again change the color mode to RGB and replace the color with 227, 143 and 0. And finally click on the gradient bar to add a third gradient slider. First set the location to 30% and then double click it to replace this color with 242, 214 and 0. Once you're done, you can close this panel and move to the layers panel to open this group and have a look at all of these subgroups. You need to start with the first one, so select it and simply drag it outside the group in the top of the layers panel. Continue with the second one, select it and go to Object, Transform and Rotate. Set the angle to 10 degrees and click OK to rotate this group. Again, drag it in the top of the layers panel outside of this main group. Continue with this group and just drag it in the top of the layers panel. Move to the next one and you'll need to rotate it 10 degrees just as you did with the second one. A much easier method that you can use to rotate this group would be to go to Object, Transform and Transform again, or you can use the Ctrl and D keyboard shortcut. So let's use this keyboard shortcut and then drag this group in the top of the layers panel. And now you'll need to repeat the same pattern of commands for the rest of these subgroups. So for the first group, all you have to do is drag it in the top of the layers panel. And for the second one, you need to select it, press Ctrl and D to rotate it 10 degrees, and then drag it in the top of the layers panel. So repeat the same commands for the rest of these subgroups, and in the end, your design should look like this. Use the selection tool to select all of these groups. Press Ctrl and G to group them. Lower the size of this group to 30 pixels. And then use again these two buttons to easily center your group like this. Let's reselect the ellipse tool from the toolbar. Use it to create a 25 pixel circle. Center this new shape and fill it with black. Go again to Object and create Gradient Mesh. Lower both of these values to 2. Now use the direct selection tool to select just this mesh point and replace the color with white. And then select your entire mesh, change the blending mode to overlay, and don't forget to lower the opacity to 40%. Return to the ellipse tool and use it to create a 45 pixel circle. Fill it with black, center it, and lower the opacity to 0%. Click again on your artboard and this time create a 9 pixel circle. Increase the opacity of this new shape back to 100% and don't forget to center it. And then move to the layers panel to select both of these shapes and go to Object, Blend and Blend Options. You need to select specified steps from this drop-down menu. Set this value to 20. Click OK and now go to Object, Blend and Make to create this nice blend. Let's drag it below this group. Keep it selected and first go to Effect, Distort and Transform, Pucker and Bloat. Drag this slider to 107%. Click OK to apply this first effect and go one more time to Effect, Distort and Transform, but this time select Transform. First you need to set the horizontal scale to 80% and the vertical one to 110. Set the angle to 60 degrees, increase the number of copies to 3, and then you can click OK to apply the second effect. Let's lower the opacity of this blend to about 10%, and then press Ctrl C and Ctrl F to add a copy of this blend. Keep it selected, and first of all, let's increase the opacity back to 100% so that you can better notice the changes which we are about to make. First of all, you need to select this larger circle and go to Object, path and add anchor points. If you switch to the direct selection tool, you will notice that this added another 4 anchor points for your circle. Now select your entire blend and open this pucker and bloat effect. All you have to do is drag the slider all the way to -200%. Click OK to apply this new effect. And now return to the transparency panel to change the blending mode of your blend to overlay and lower the opacity to 40%. Next, you need to select all of your petal shapes. You can start with the top one. Remember to hold down the Shift key before you click the bottom one. And this way you can quickly select all of your petal shapes with just a few clicks. Now let's go to Object, Path and Offset Path. Set the offset to 0 pixels, click OK, and as you can see, this will create some outlines around your meshes. Click this button from the Pathfinder panel to unite all of these new shapes. Now you'll need to remove these shapes that lie in the center, so let's go to Object, Compound Path and Release. Focus on the Layers panel and let's just remove the shapes that lie in the center. Select the remaining shape and drag it in the bottom of the Layers panel. Keep it selected. First of all, remove the stroke color and then go to Object, Transform and Scale. Keep it uniform. Increase this value to 109 and click the Copy button to create this new shape. Let's drag it in the top of the Layers panel. Continue with the Ellipse tool and use it to create a 30 pixel circle. Center this new shape. Select both of these shapes. Make sure that the fill is active and replace the color with 51, 16, and 24. Now select just this shape and lower the opacity to 3%. Reselect both of these shapes and go again to Object, Blend and Blend Options. Let's increase this value to 30. Click OK, and now you can press Ctrl, Alt and B to quickly create this new blend. Drag it below your petals, and then let's also add a subtle blur effect. Go to Effect, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Set the radius to 2 pixels and click OK to apply this effect. Now return to the Layers panel to select your top 5 petal shapes. Press Ctrl and G to group them, and then go to Effect, Stylize and Drop Shadow to apply a shadow effect. Keep the blending mode set to multiply and the color to black. Lower the opacity to 30%. Set the offset values to 1 and 2. Lower the blur to 3 pixels, and then you can click OK to apply this drop shadow effect. Now we only want this shadow to be visible where the petals overlap, and in order to achieve this effect, we'll use a clipping mask. Select this shape and drag it on top of your petals group. Select it along with the group, and then just go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. Now this will be your flower design. Let's select all of these shapes and group them using the Ctrl and G keyboard shortcut. Press Ctrl C and then Ctrl F to add a copy of this group. Turn up the visibility of your first flower design, and having this new flower design selected, let's see how you can easily recolor it. First, you need to dig inside this group and select just the petals. And then you can click this button to open the Recolor artwork window. Let's move it aside, and using these handles you can easily recolor your flower. Now you can also click this Advanced Options button, which will open this larger Recolor artwork window, and you can type in a color code for this main color, and the rest of these colors will adjust as long as you have this Link Colors button checked. So let's make our flower purple, and we'll replace this color with 217, 140 and 198. Now that you know how this feature works, feel free to try different colors. For the final touch, let's also add a vector leaf. Pick again the ellipse tool and use it to create a 50 by 150 pixels shape. Fill it with a random green. Continue with the anchor point tool and just click this point to turn it into a sharp point. Now switch to the direct selection tool and use it to select just these 2 points. Let's quickly go to Edit, Preferences and General, and make sure that the keyboard increment is set to 1 pixel. And now with these 2 points selected, let's hold down the Shift key and press the down arrow key twice, which will move your selected anchor points 20 pixels down, like this. When you're done, click inside this shape to select it, and let's turn it into a gradient mesh. Increase these values to 3, click OK, and now let's use the direct selection tool to select these mesh points and adjust the colors. Start with the top ones and replace the color with 177, 166 and 60. Move down to these 2 points and set the color to 86, 128 and 40. Continue with these 2 points and replace this color with 103, 149 and 51. Select just this point and let's set the color to 77, 118 and 36. For this one you need to set the color to 40, 81 and 23. Now select these 2 points and replace the color with 86, 128 and 40. And finally select these bottom points and change the color to 26, 67 and 17. Now that you've got this mesh, let's continue with the line segment tool from your toolbar and use it to create a 150 pixels vertical path. Add a 5-point stroke and set the color to 26, 67 and 17. Open the stroke flyer panel to select profile number 4 from this list. And also lower the opacity of your stroke to 70% and change the blending mode to soft light. Now use the selection tool to select this line along with the mesh. Click again these 2 buttons to easily move your line on top of the mesh. Press Ctrl and G to group these 2 objects. Let's drag the group in the bottom of the layers panel below the flowers. Rotate it like this and move it around this position. And then go to Effect, Warp and Flag. Make sure that this horizontal box is checked and lower the bend to 10%. Click OK and go again to Effect and Distort and Transform, but this time apply a Transform effect. First of all, drag both of these scale sliders to 90%. For the angle, let's set it to 40 degrees. Check this top left reference point and increase the number of copies to only 1. Now you can click OK to apply the second effect. And with this final touch, your design is complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Remember to hit that like button as it helps me know that I did a good job. Subscribe if you aren't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon to be notified of any new tutorials. I'm Andrei Marius, and I'll see you in the next video.